Ladies, gentlemen, and internet trolls, welcome back. This is Fan Fridays, the show where I give outsiders an inside look into the mind of an MLB All-Star. Have you ever wondered what my goals are when I step in the batter's box? I got that answer for you, and many, many more right now. As always, we're going to answer some questions from YouTube first. Question number 1. Why do you think pitchers lose their velocity as they age? I think pitchers generally get lazy. That's a pretty hot take, but I think it's true. Let's look at the timeline for a second. Generally, pitchers come up into the big leagues and they're 26-ish. If you get up before 26, you're pretty good. If you get up 27, 28, maybe a little bit late, you struggle through the minors a little bit, but let's say 26 years old is the average age of a pitcher when he gets his major league debut. Well, he's 6 years till free agency, so that would put you at 32. And so you look at the general velocity curves of pitchers, and they fall off pretty drastically around that 33, 32, 33, somewhere in there, 34, depending on the guy. But generally speaking, in that early 30s, they start to really fall off. You generally tend to see a slight downtick and then a pretty drastic downtick around that time. Well, they finally get paid. They get a contract. They stop working as hard. They get scared of injury because they're coming up on free agency, so they don't put the work in throwing-wise. They don't put the work in the weight room. They get very comfortable with the fact that they're having success doing one thing. They don't want to change. They're scared of change. They're scared of adaptation. And so then their physical skills tail off. And for a little while, they don't notice much of a difference because when their velocity drops by half a mile an hour 1 year to the next, they have a little bit more experience. And so experience offsets the lack of stuff. And that happens 4 or 5 years in a row. They experience similar success. But at some point, you max out the benefits that you get from experience. And then your physical skills matter. And if your physical skills aren't there, then you see this huge drop-off in ability on the field, performance on the field. Generally, when that happens, that's the only time that people start looking and say, okay, well, I don't want to be bad. What do I need to do to get better? And a lot of times the answer is velocity. So they try to add it back on, but it's too late at that point because also the league is advancing. Velocities in the league go up pretty steadily every single year. So if you're not gaining velocity and you're not losing it, technically you're losing velocity relative to the league. So I think it's a work thing. If you look at physical peaks, generally physical performance peaks for males in the 28 to 33 range, somewhere in there, 27. That's when you're at your physical peak hormonally and whatever else. So if you're at your physical peak until 33, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to maintain that strength and see a very slow decline in velocity somewhat into your later 30s. But that's not what we really see. And so it seems to make sense to me. I'm only 29 right now, so perhaps I'm way off and I'll get a rude awakening in a couple years when my velocity really seems to tail off. But I think there's plenty of guys that show that you can throw hard late into your career. Charlie Morton, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, some of these guys that do it late into their 30s. I don't think they're necessarily any more genetically gifted than other people in the league. I just think that they value it and they work and attempt to maintain their strength and their explosiveness and all that. So that's my thought. Hot take, starting this thing off. All right, question number 2. When doing long toss, do my throws tail? Yes, they do. Tailing is about how the ball is spinning. So if my arm angle is kind of low out here in long toss, well, the ball's going to tail off this way a little bit. If my arm angle is directly over the top, the ball might go directly straight. So given that my arm angle is down here now, my ball definitely does tail. I don't get the amount of carry that I used to when I was leaned over and directly over the top. So yeah, simple answer, yes, they do. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think you should try to correct it necessarily. As long as you're able to hit your partner in the chest or within a step or two of where he's standing, you're probably moving okay mechanically, and you should just roll with that. So if it tails, don't worry about it. Just don't do anything bad mechanically. And generally, that's fixed by hitting your partner in the chest. So very simple stuff. Number 3, how often do big leaguers, quote, miss their spots? A lot. A lot. I guess it depends on what you consider a spot, because if a catcher sets his glove here and I move the glove like this to catch the ball, technically I missed my spot by a couple inches. So is that missing a spot or not? So what's the distance that you have to miss by? The times that let's talk about quadrants. You know, if the pitcher gets the ball to the quadrant of the zone that he's trying to, I would say that's generally a pretty well executed pitch. Like some guys probably can get it to ninths consistently, somewhat consistently. But even so, let's talk about quadrants for a second. I would guess that the amount of times that the pitcher gets the ball to the quadrant of the zone that he's trying to get it to is well below 40%. Pitchers miss their spots all the time. There's just no real good way of quantifying it because you don't know exactly what's going on in the pitcher's head when he's trying to throw that pitch. The catcher might set the target here, but the pitcher might be trying to bounce it. Or the catcher might set the target down, but the pitcher's really looking at the catcher's mask, trying to throw it to the catcher's mask. So there's not really any good way of quantifying it, but I would guess that it's well below 40%. For instance, I'm certainly not a command artist, but I set up balls on a tee to throw at, and I try to hit the ball off the tee. And I'm maybe 5% of the time, I'll hit the ball off the tee. That would be, drilling your spot because it's very small. But maybe 5%. I might throw 20 fastballs to a certain spot and hit the ball once, maybe twice. I'm sure there's other pitchers out there that can do it more often than I can. But yeah, if you think pitchers are hitting their spots all the time, not happening. That's why you have to have good stuff, because when you miss your spots, good stuff helps you not get hit. So just to kind of throw on another thought on the end of that one. All right, now for some questions from my fans over at trevorbauer.com. Tanner Kolep asks, as a pitcher who also throws a Vulcan change, how are you able to get the grip you desire without tipping the pitch? Do you preset, or are you able to shift your fingers when they need to be discreetly? That's a great question. It depends on the grip itself. My method for doing this is I set my glove against my body and I don't move my glove. And that way I can do whatever I want with the baseball in my glove. I can put my hand in underneath it if I need to, but my glove isn't moving. A lot of times people get in trouble because they want to press the ball into their glove, and so they move their hand a certain way and then their glove hand moves the same way, and so hitters can see the glove hand. Hitters can't see nearly as much when you set your hand in your glove like this, especially from the stretch. If the hitter's over here, it's very hard to see behind your glove how your hand is twisting. Now, the third base coach might be able to see it and relay it to the hitter and whatever the case is. So that's potential. That has potential. But the other way you could go is just get whatever is the most difficult grip for you to get that first and set it in your glove with that. And then if you need to change to a different grip that's easier, it's easier. Instead of always going with a fastball and then trying to get to difficult grips in your glove. But I don't have any problem tipping my changeup or tipping any pitch really, because I set my glove against my body and I leave it there so I don't tip with my glove. And so it just takes away one of the easiest tells for hitters. Next up, Judah Silverman says, how important is velocity in the lower... I can't read today, guys. How important to velocity is the lower half during the pitch? Would squatting and or deadlifting make a difference? Where do I even start on this one? Lower half is very important, but I'm baffled. I don't even know where to start on this one. Let's see. Velocity is generated by getting your hips. Okay, I'm going to start over. Velocity is on the lower half dependent on a couple things. The lead leg block, how open the hips are at landing, and the energy that you can apply into the lead leg block. So the lead leg needs to stop. It needs to land and stop. And your hips need to be in a position so that when it does stop, it presses let's say for a righty, it presses your left hip back and your right hip forward. And that's really what drives the energy from the lower half that you've created up the chain. So you need to be strong enough on your front leg that it can block and stop so that you don't get, your hips don't sink into your leg, your knee doesn't go forward, your knee doesn't buckle outward, stuff like that. And you need to be able to position your hips in such a way that, mechanically speaking, when the front leg hits, your hips open up more as opposed to stopping. Now, for the second part of the question, would squatting or lunging or deadlifting be important for that? Absolutely. But the mechanics of it are also important. So it's hard to say one's more important or the other. You need to have a general base of strength on your legs so that you can be very abrupt in how fast you stop your body moving down the mound. It needs to be, the ideal is that your leg would hit, and as soon as your leg hits, it doesn't move at all. It just completely stops. It's a block of granite and never moves, and everything else functions around it. That obviously never happens because we're humans, and the mounds are different, and the cleats and all the different stuff, but that's the ideal that you're trying to work towards. So the stronger you are on that lead leg, the better off you're going to be. But it also takes power. It can't just be strength. You have to be able to absorb. So there's an eccentric component to it. Then you have to be able to stop it and then potentially extend it depending on how your mechanics work. So there's a lot of things that go into it. You need plyometric training, you need strength training, you need mass, you need mechanical efficiency. There's a lot of things that go into that question, which is why I didn't know exactly how to start it and where to start with it, because there's just so many things that affect it. So anyway, hopefully that gave you some of the things that you were looking for. Question number 6 comes from Mike T. Now that you're in the NL, do you have any goals when you step to the plate in particular? Like don't get hurt, productive ABs, make fun of teammates' stances, etc. My goal is to get the bunt down if I need to get a bunt down. After that, no, I don't really have a goal. Don't really have a goal at all. I'd love to say that my goal is to get a hit, but I like to set realistic goals, and I'm just not that good of a hitter. So I guess see as many pitches as possible, make the guy throw. But sometimes that's not even effective because you want the starter out there longer instead of getting to the bullpen, depending on the team that you're facing. If there's guys on base, guys on second or third or both, absolutely I'm trying to get a hit, trying to drive those guys in, trying to get some runs. If there's no one on base and 2 outs, I kind of want to get out. I want to get back to the dugout and get ready to go pitch, because the likelihood of me getting on and then me coming around to score and then me having enough time to recover in between innings to go out and be effective on the mound is a lot smaller than me just getting out, recovering, and then going and pitching and then scoring next inning. So these are some of the things that I think about, just given my history of not being a good hitter. I also don't like hitting. So yeah, I guess I never really think about getting hurt, but see pitches, get the bunt down first and foremost. That's important. And then I guess see as many pitches as possible to drive the pitch count up. That would be my guess. All right, last but not least, and I'm probably going to mispronounce your name, Kevin, but I apologize in advance. Kevin Novobilski. Kevin Novobilski says, how important is cardio for a starting pitcher, and how often do you work on cardio? And this answer might shock you, but I don't think cardio is important for a pitcher at all. I don't ever work on my cardio. I don't run. I don't do bikes. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, cardio is important for recovery. It's been shown. The better you are cardiovascularly, the more quickly your body can recover. You can pump more blood. Your heart's better. Your lungs are better. All that stuff. That's important. But I get enough cardio from my throwing program and from my lifting program that I don't work on it outside of that. I don't think long distance running is effective at all. I think it's detrimental for pitchers. And that's primarily what the conditioning and the cardio programs are for pitchers. Go run pulls, go run miles, go run a flush run, stuff like that. I think if you're going to do cardio, it should be 5 to 10 seconds. So a sprint of some sort or some sort of movement. You can get cardio done doing corrective exercises. If you just do them in a circuit in rapid progression, that could be good. But every time you do cardio, every time you run, there's certain benefits and certain detriments to it. You're adding stress to the body, to the joints. You're teaching your body to move slow or to move fast, to be explosive or to not. You're training your cardiovascular system. So it depends on what you want to do and where you are neuromuscularly, where your central nervous system is at that day, with what you can get done. But overall, as a general principle, I don't think cardio is very important for pitchers. I think being able to handle an explosion of 1.5 seconds and then rest for 20 seconds and being able to do that again is very important. And I would train that as opposed to training overall cardio. So hopefully that answers your question. And I now have a question for all of you. And my question is, who is your favorite content creator and why? Could be baseball, could be not sports related, could be, it doesn't matter. Favorite content creator, favorite guy you like to watch, girl that you like to watch, favorite YouTube channel, whatever it is. Who's your favorite content creator out there? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. That would help me out a lot. I'm trying to get to 100,000 by the end of 2020. So hit that, send it to your friends. If you haven't already, let them know this channel exists. Give me a like or a dislike. If you don't like this video, hit that dislike button too, whatever you feel. But that would really help me out. And if you'd like a shout out in a future Fan Fridays, head on over to trevorbauer.com, sign up for my email list, and submit your question on the homepage. And before I ramble anymore, thank you as always for watching, and I will see you in the next video.